Detroit Lions fans, welcome back to the channel. We understand there's not a lot of news coming out right now, but there are discussions which can be had, and I'm the guy who wants to have those discussions. Now, talking about this linebacker room, shout out to Sports Illustrated for the article in which I read. The link is in the description. But Alex Anzalone, Derrick Barnes. They texted linebacker coach Kelvin Shepherd immediately after the draft selection of Jack Campbell with the 18th pick, and they were excited about the pick. You know, iron sharpens iron. I want to compete. I want to have a room, trusting that if I'm not 100%, the guy behind me can get the job done as well. But basically, the topic of this conversation and the overall takeaway by Kelvin Shepherd, these guys wanted to know, he's a great player. We love him in the room. How does this affect me, though? So Derrick Barnes and Alex Anzalone, they want to know, how does Jack Campbell affect their long-term success? And the team is put first, but we want to know because as individuals, we want to perform. We want to be a part of helping this team on the football field. So I want to talk about that kind of linebacker battle that we have going on right now, because I don't think it's solved. I don't think anybody knows right now, because you can't evaluate linebackers in a pajama party. You can't evaluate linebackers in OTAs and mini camps. So nobody knows truly who's going to start day one with that two linebacker group. And I talk about two linebackers because we know the hybrid 4-2-5. We know the nickel packages. Probably going to be Brian Branch. Could be Chauncey Gardner-Johnson right there in that slot. So with that being said, I want to start off with Anzalone. Now, he got re-signed with the deal. We know about that. Some people liked it, some people didn't. I was kind of caught off guard by the fact that they re-signed Anzalone, but when looking at the market, looking at the draft, really a weak linebacker draft class, looking at that and thinking about it, it kind of was the right decision. Now, he can also, nobody's talking about it from this angle, but he can be the odd man out in this group. And I think it's tough to say it, it's tough to hear it, but think about it. With a Jack Campbell, with a Rodriguez, and a Derrick Barnes, Anzalone may, if he continues some of the weaknesses in his game, he could be the odd man out. Now, I love Alex Anzalone. I've went to bat for him. I've done film breakdowns on him, and I've talked about him specifically in depth. But when I look at this linebacker group, I look at Barnes, I look at Rodriguez and Anzalone, Jack Campbell fills out a lot of the weaknesses that a lot of these guys have. Their weaknesses are Jack Campbell's strengths. And he's basically a unicorn. So when I talk about Alex Anzalone, him being the veteran in the room with a young linebacker core, if he's not the guy, he can still be the voice. And I think that's an important thing, being a veteran, being a guy who's seen it. And he has good tape out there. He has bad tape out there. So if he's not the guy who's particularly performing on the field, he can be that extension of the coaching staff on the football field with his guys. Now, I can easily say, if I'm Alex Anzalone, right here, I don't like what you did. And I was a guy who did that early in my career. I was a guy who did that last year. And I know that because I thought the same thing you were thinking, Jack Campbell, or hypothetically Derrick Barnes. I thought the same thing you were thinking, and that got me into a bad position. That got me hooked by the guard. That got me arc blocked by a tight end because I didn't see him. I wasn't really reading my keys, and I wasn't patient here. I was fast flowing here. I overran my gap here. These are the type of conversations which can be had in this room, and now Derrick Barnes can soak that up. Malcolm Rodriguez can soak that up. Jack Campbell can soak that up, and like I said, it's still a battle, but if I had to be realistic about the situation, based on the coaching staff and based on what we already know, Alex Anzalone still has the upper hand here because he has the best tape out of all he was the guy last year. Now, Rodriguez played a lot of snaps beside him, but Alex Anzalone was the guy in the linebacker room, and we saw him re-sign. You can't let your best player in your room go, and that was something that they brought back. Now, when I look at Derrick Barnes, I think that he rightfully is in the conversation, got a lot of first team reps. Now, we understand Malcolm Rodriguez was dealing with some things during OTA minicamp sessions, but with that being said, he's jumping, and I think I want to know what the Detroit Lions fans in the comments think, because I see the fact that he's kind of jumping Malcolm Rodriguez in the offseason process. I don't understand what that is about, but based on what I saw on film, and I mean based on the fact that Malcolm Rodriguez got so many snaps, you can't give him all of these snaps and then immediately jump Derrick Barnes over him. But I do think Barnes is a guy who has a lot of potential. And talking about him being an athletic guy, being a thumper in the run game, can he jump over Rodriguez and Jack Campbell? Now, that's a steep ask. Asking that out of Derrick Barnes, but I do think he has the talent, and it's based on what he shows in training camp. Now, with that being said, I do think we look at last year, didn't play in as many games as Rodriguez, didn't play in as many games as Alex Anzalone. So basically what we're banking on right now is kind of his potential, kind of being poised for a breakout training camp. And that's what we're expecting. But how many reps can he get if Jack Campbell's soaking that all in, if Malcolm Rodriguez is soaking that all in? So I think that kind of adds, what does this mean for me? Because even if I was that kind of that swing linebacker, the third guy to come in a base front, I want to be that second guy on the football field. And probably what he's thinking is he really could have overtaken Malcolm Rodriguez. He could have overtook Alex Anzalone. So with that being said, now you're hypothetically moved from third on the hype train to kind of fourth on the hype train. And that is a big difference. Understand, with the hybrid 4-2-5, only two guys being on the football field at once. So this is a big change for Derrick Barnes. And understanding, texting his coach, asking what does that mean for him. Well, we can't overlook Malcolm Rodriguez. I mean, we saw the film. I've showed you the film. I broke it down. I've talked about him. We even saw the live games. He pops off in the eye test, and I talk about how I found him. Just a random Saturday watching Oklahoma State. He's flying around. He was back then. He was playing kind of the hybrid safety linebacker role, and he wasn't truly a linebacker. He was just a football player, but flying around in that game, doing what he did, making tackles everywhere, even making plays in coverage. And now, being kind of the undersized guy, being the underdog in the room, he made a name for himself, and he won't go away without a fight. I can guarantee you that we're looking at all these guys, and I don't think Malcolm Rodriguez is getting the respect that he deserves, but he's not going to go away. Watch when training camp comes. You're going to hear a lot of coaches, man, Malcolm Rodriguez is making these plays. He still wants to be that starter. He still wants to be that guy. Even though we brought guys in, I'm not just going to fold and give up my spot, but kind of the outlier in this thing. And I talked about Jack Campbell being a unicorn, and I truly think he is a unicorn. Being as athletic as he is, being as technically sound and gifted as he is in a 6'4", 240-plus frame. That's not what we see in today's game. We look at the linebackers. I mean, the last linebacker I can think about that's kind of in that size frame, I mean, with the athleticism, we got to go back. We got to go back and we talk about the Brian Urlachers. I mean, Dante Hightower, but he's really not as tall as Jack Campbell as well. So we look at all the linebackers and we think about today's NFL, a lot of West Coast, a lot of misdirection, a lot of attacks on the perimeter. You got to be able to run sideline to sideline. So now with that being said, he doesn't lack the athleticism at that size to run sideline to sideline, to cover guys, to run the pole in Tampa 2, to be in a hook zone, to get into the flat. He can do that. And we think about the Roquan Smiths, the Devin Bushes, all of these guys, all of the linebackers, Jordan Brooks, Bobby Wagner. None of these guys are 6'4". They may be close to 250, but when you're 6'4" and you don't like the athleticism, that is a different kind of thing that we're dealing with. So with this linebacker room, I think it's up to training camp. Just a discussion I want to have and know what you guys think about the linebacker room. Who has the edge? Rank those guys 1 through 4 for me in the comments. I want to know. I'm going to give you my rankings before I end this video off, and I'm going to start off with 1. Alex Anzalone. I think he rightfully deserves to be respected. And I understand he does have some weaknesses. He does have some things he can clean up on tape, but that's why we got training camp. That's why we got all these practices. But I know what he can do. I know what the good Alex Anzalone looks like. It looks like a guy flying downhill, flying sideline to sideline, making plays on the football. Very physical. I think number 2 though, this is where I made diverse from some Detroit Lions fans. I gotta go Jack Campbell. Now, I watched film on Derrick Barnes. I watched film on Malcolm Rodriguez, but Jack Campbell, I'm telling you guys, and you got to trust me on this one, he's going to be different. And what I harp on with linebackers, being a guy who's played linebacker, patience. Jack Campbell is very patient. That's the name of the game. Don't go until you know. Jack Campbell's not going to go until he knows. So I think that's what the biggest thing is for me personally in this linebacker evaluation. He can even jump Alex Anzalone, but I won't give him the nod yet because he hasn't done it at the NFL level. But once he does it at the NFL level, he is easily going to be the guy in this room for me. Now, number 3, Malcolm Rodriguez. I got the respect for the guy. Now, it's a very close 3-4. It's very close in those numbers and those rankings. Now, I do like both of the guys. I like Barnes. He's a little bit bigger than Rodriguez, but Rodriguez is special, and he has that dog in him. Now, all the measurables, all the things, they are nice, but when you got that dog in you, it sets you apart. It doesn't matter if you're a corner, you're a lineman. You could be undersized. You could be unathletic. You could be not as athletic as you want to be at that position, But if you're a dog, you make up for a lot of those things. Now, number 4, I got Derrick Barnes. I really like Derrick Barnes. He can jump in this ranking, so don't take this as a knock on the guy. He can easily jump to number 2 behind Alex Anzalone or behind a Campbell, any of those guys. It's really up for grabs. And like I said, you can't evaluate a linebacker in a pajama party. You got to put the pads on. You got to get physical with him. You got to see when a guard gets hands on him, when a fullback, a tight end, a Sam Laporta, for example, a tackle. When these guys get hands on them, how do you make plays then? How do you read your keys then when we got guys going in jet motion, when we got motions and all of these different things in the defense? If we have shifts, how are you calling these strengths? Are you communicating with the guys? Those little things. But something I want to see, something I want to talk about with this linebacker room, they texted them, and they want to know, what does this mean for their spot?